A single gram of botulinum toxin paralyzes hundreds of adults. A decomposing carcass leaks anthrax, cadaverine, and flesh-eating bacteria that rupture human organs within hours. Yet a vulture plunges its bare skull into this biological catastrophe every day with complete enthusiasm. No hospital visits, no upset stomach, no drama. We built human civilizations around avoiding what they consider a five-star breakfast buffet. This gap is far from a coincidence of adaptation. It represents one of the most brilliant immune architectures documented by science, and the mechanism protecting them from nature's deadliest poisons reveals how the creature we treat as a filthy pest serves as humanity's ultimate biological bodyguard against global pandemics. When scientists examine scavenger survival from a physiological framework, the initial shield relies on sheer chemical warfare. In 2014, a landmark study published in Nature Communications by researcher Michael Rogenbuck uncovered the internal chemistry of New World vultures. While human digestion operates at a mild pH level between 1.5 and 3.5, which gets overwhelmed by minor food contamination, a vulture stomach drops its internal environment to a terrifying pH of 1.0. This matches the corrosive intensity of commercial battery acid. This extreme acid pool dissolves bone fragments and metal wire, while instantly incinerating ingested spores of anthrax and cholera on contact. Gastric acid functions as an internal industrial furnace, melting away hazardous pathogens long before they ever reach the bloodstream. Without this internal acid furnace, scavengers would face an embarrassing digestive breakdown within minutes. This extreme acidity represents an evolutionary masterpiece of chemical isolation. Surviving the acid furnace represents merely the outer rampart of their immunity, because scavengers also master bacterial adaptation. The second biological boundary involves extremophile gut specialization. In 2015, a groundbreaking study by researchers Waite and Taylor demonstrated that scavengers do not maintain a sterile digestive system. Instead, their hindgut is colonized by two primary toxic bacterial classes, known as Clostridia and Fusobacteria. While these microbes cause fatal tissue damage inside human organs, vultures evolved to turn these unruly microbes into permanent room-cleaning allies. These resident microbes outcompete incoming foodborne pathogens while producing specialized enzymes that break down toxic cadaverine and putrescine into harmless metabolic snacks. Coexisting alongside hazardous bacteria transformed a dangerous infection risk into an indispensable metabolic partnership that sustains scavenger life throughout their multi-decade lifespans. This microbial alliance ensures that even highly toxic decomposition products are safely processed like routine laundry, even if a pathogen bypasses the acid stomach and the competitive gut microbiome. Decaying flesh contains chemical weapons that operate without living bacteria. The third barrier relies on molecular toxin immunity and specialized endotoxin shields. In 2017, evolutionary biologist Daniel Blumstein published research detailing how scavengers neutralize botulinum toxin, the most dangerous biological substance known to science. Botulinum toxin normally binds to neurological junctions, blocking nerve signals and causing rapid respiratory failure. However, scavengers possess mutated cellular receptors and specialized circulating antibodies, acting like a bio-bouncing security squad that catches and neutralizes botulinum proteins before they ever touch a nerve cell. Furthermore, their immune cells exhibit a muted inflammatory response, absorbing massive concentrations of bacterial endotoxins without throwing a dramatic biological panic attack. Carrying botulinum antibodies represents a vital evolutionary requirement, turning deadly poisons into harmless liquid passing through the body without disrupting neural function. Did you expect stomach acid to rival battery acid, or is the botulinum antibody shield even more astonishing? Share your perspective in the comments and subscribe to Zoologic to join our exploration of extreme animal biology. The stark contrast between human perception and scavenger biology becomes clear when examining olfactory threat signals. Humans experience intense visceral disgust when smelling cadaverine or putrescine because our brain amygdala recognizes these volatile amine compounds as immediate warnings of biological hazard. Evolutionary psychology demonstrates that disgust is an ancient neural safeguard, keeping our species away from decaying organic matter. But scavengers possess olfactory receptors tuned in the opposite direction. To a vulture, the scent of decay triggers a delightful surge of dopamine, signaling an accessible, highly concentrated energy source requiring zero physical effort. Neural wiring pairs the scent of decay with gustatory reward, turning what humans perceive as repulsive into a dinner bell that guides scavengers across vast, arid landscapes. This emotional inversion demonstrates how evolution repurposed neurological threat circuits into joyful survival. GPS. Beyond olfactory adaptation, a common myth portrays scavengers as mindless, primitive creatures. On the contrary, cognitive research demonstrates that obligate scavenging demands extraordinary spatial mapping and social intelligence. Vultures utilize thermal updrafts to monitor hundreds of square miles of terrain, while reading the subtle flight cues of neighboring birds to locate hidden food sources. By outsourcing food processing to microbial decomposition, scavengers conserve immense amounts of energy that would otherwise be expended on dangerous physical hunting. Mastering the art of ecological recycling allowed their species to dominate vacant ecological niches without risking physical injury in violent territorial battles. Their social signaling networks operate as an aerial intelligence system covering entire ecosystems. Here is the underlying truth that reframes the entire story. Humanity spends centuries viewing vultures and hyenas with revulsion, labeling them as symbols of death, disease, and filth. We construct sterile cities, pasteurize our food, and erect massive sanitation infrastructure to protect our fragile bodies from microbial infection. Yet human perception overlooks a fundamental truth. Human populations endured not in spite of scavengers, but because of their constant protection. Scavengers operate as the primary biological vacuum cleaners of the planet, consuming millions of tons of infected carcasses that would otherwise trigger continental anthrax and cholera outbreaks. We evolved to avoid rotting meat because our bodies lack internal biohazard armor. But scavengers evolved battery acid stomachs and toxin antibodies to serve as an invisible shield for the entire biosphere. The creature we treat with revulsion remains humanity's final line of defense against global disease. If global sanitation networks ever experience systemic failure, human vulnerability to airborne and waterborne pathogens will become instantly apparent. Yet nature already engineered a permanent solution to biological decay. Observing a vulture soaring above arid terrain reveals something far greater than a filthy pest. We are observing a living masterpiece of evolutionary immunology, chemical defense, and ecological preservation. Rather than standing as absolute masters of survival, humans rely on fragile artificial bubbles, while scavengers hold the true keys to biological immunity.
Understanding their biology empowers our species to protect global ecosystems and appreciate the delicate balance of life.